Okay, nobody has done it.
I think I've shared mine too.
I can share.
Okay, let me stop sharing from my end.
Yeah. So while Harshal is stopping sharing, one thing I would kind of recommending, this is your opportunity to share your work and learn it. If you have a question, this is the best way to do that. So I would encourage any work that you've done it, let's walk through it so that we understand where your mind is in terms of how to solve this or how to address this, building a tree, so that we can help you understanding the overall process.
Okay.
So can you see my screen?
Yes, Nidhi.
So the requirement was area manager can create following user types: dealer user and rep user. So according to me, it was simple. Either he can create dealer user, yes or no, or he can create rep user, yes or no.
Okay.
So Niti, can you give me a little bit more insight into when you were saying it as, hey, yes or no? Give me a scenario when you say he can create a dealer user as yes.
Okay, so when an area manager trying to create dealer user, so first scenario could be yes, when he could easily create the dealer user in the system, and like there are certain certain conditions which he needs to follow, certain steps which he needs to follow. And another one, when he cannot create the dealer user, like he maybe like he cannot save in the system, or the system is not working, like, so it's similarly with the rep user.
So is there only one scenario for the yes, or there are more than one?
So so if we talk about the scenarios, it could be 4 scenarios.
So I understand, like, it's the way you've shown it, there are 4 scenarios, right? But is there any additional things that you need to keep into consideration when you, like, it came out to build this tree?
So I would assume like all the like we have all the required data to fill the form related to the dealer user or area manager or rep user. So if we don't have certain data, then or the system is not working properly, then the area manager cannot create dealer user or rep user.
So, okay. So hang on for 1 minute. Let me ask to the rest of the class. Is anybody has any different tree than what Niti has it?
I have a slightly different one.
Okay. So Niti, can you unshare? I want to like see it.
Yeah, sure.
What the other one is. And then I'll come back to get a little bit more understanding about how you define things. Okay. So we can see the PDF. Are you trying to open that PDF file?
Can you guys see my
I can see your email client. I don't see it. If you have clicked it on the PDF file, I can't see the PDF file.
Oh, okay. Just give me a second. I think they shared the wrong screen. Wait, can you now see?
Yep.
Yeah, now we can see it.
Cool.
Hey, Nisha, if you're not speaking, can you put yourself on mute?
Let me mute her.
Uh, so basically, I see it as that the area manager can create a user, which are two different types: dealer user, RFREP user. Dealer user goes through their name, dealership address, contact, whatever,
Okay.
that dealership type, and their number. While the RFREP, I didn't know much about him, so I just said first, last name, contact info, and address.
Okay. So, because if you see it, right, what you have drawn the subsequent one, the first name, last name, and then dealership name. Think about it. Those are the actual attributes or information that I need to create the dealer user, right? Those are not the test cases. Those are not the leaves. So when you're building a tree, you may want to think about it. What are the different possible scenarios
Okay.
that you need to come up with it in order to validate that particular requirement,
Yep, that makes sense.
right? So at a minimum, right? So we talked about what Nisha shared, what Niti shared it is I have for dealer users, two different possibilities. One is I'm able to successfully create it and I'm able to fail to create it,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
So where I'm going it is if I fail it to successfully create it, does that automatically indicate that my unable to create user test case is already created?
That makes
So
sense.
are those redundant,
Mhm.
right? Or the other way you can think about it is if I'm an area manager and I'm trying to create a new dealer user, let's think about what are the possible scenario could be. Is I could be trying to create a dealer user by providing all the required fields only.
Mhm.
Because
That
if you
makes
look
sense.
into the design document, right,
Mhm.
for every dealer user, you have two categories of information. One is that is required, and one sets of information which is optional,
Yeah.
right? So you can say, hey, I'm going to try to create a dealer user two different ways. One way is by just providing only the mandatory pieces of data. And that's, I should be successful as long as I provide that data. Second way I'm going to create it is I'm going to provide both mandatory and optional, and I can still verify that I can create it. What it does is it allows you to validate it is the user is enforced to enter any data which is not a mandatory data,
Makes sense.
right?
Mhm.
So those are two different scenarios that you need to do it for. Can I create it successfully? Then the third scenario is the failure. When you don't provide a certain mandatory pieces of data, you need to validate it. That's not going to allow you to create a user. So
Yeah.
that's the no scenario, Niti, that I was trying to get to.
So
Okay, yep,
basically,
got it.
do we like, sorry, basically, so do we just like do exactly the stuff what is written on the question? So like we don't go too much in the details, right? We just try to like find different ways
Right.
to create them, right?
Yeah. The detail that you're talking about, you still need that, but you need that detail when you're writing the test case step-by-step instruction.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. So whenever we write
Right.
in the form thing, the template thing, task case thing, that's where we need the details.
Precisely. So
Okay, that makes
initially
sense.
you need to figure it out. What all different things I need to test it in order to validate this requirement.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Mhm.
So it's the same path for dealer user and RFREP users, right? So three possible scenario with the dealer user and three possible scenario with the RFREP users. Now, another condition that you need to test it is what if they don't provide any information and click on create button? What should you get it, right? Should you get some prompt from the system that, hey, here are the minimum mandatory pieces of data required? or it will try to create the user without any data and run into errors. Right.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
you want to start thinking about the behavior of the system, how the system should behave it if somebody tries to create something without entering any information. So if you go back into the discussion we had in the class when I asked Herschel, hey, do I require any pieces of information or can I just click search? Then what should happen? Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah.
When Herschel said that no, you have to have at least one of the field populated.
Yeah. I was there.
Same question you need to ask it. Hey, what should be the system's behavior or response if I try to create a dealer user without providing any data? So that should be your fourth test case for the dealer user, right? So you have two positive test cases and two negative test cases. Same thing, you will do it for RFEP users. So when I look at it, when I step back for this particular requirement, I see the total of 8 test cases I need to do it to validate that it is behaving the way it should be.
So, wait, how is it 8 again? Because the dealer user has itself 3, right?
So think of it, right? So if I'm taking a dealer user path and I'm drawing a path from dealer user, I have one path that is I'm successfully able to create dealer user using mandatory field only. Then I have second path that I'm able to create the dealer user when I provide all the information or all the mandatory and some optional information, right? So that's my second path. My third path is I'm failed to create a dealer user if I don't provide one of the mandatory pieces of information.
And all these branches are coming out of area manager?
They are coming out from area manager creating dealer user. So it's coming out from dealer user. Okay. And the fourth one is when I'm not providing any pieces of data and I click it to create that user, then what happens?
So then isn't that 5 right now? So one is like provide some data or all info.
No, hang on, it's 4.
I don't understand. Can you please explain again?
Yeah, I think it's somebody's background noise is coming too.
Would you mind? I'll just stop sharing my screen and you can just show your.
Yeah, hang on, I may have to create it first. I haven't had to create it. So go ahead and start reviewing the second set of requirement while I build it. So Herschel, you want to go ahead and do the second requirement while I work on the first one?
Sorry, Dilip, give me a second. I'm just building it right now. So let me go
Oh,
ahead
you
and
are
share my
building it?
screen. Yep.
Okay.
So let me go ahead and share it. I think that would be easier. Okay. So what Dilip is talking about here is just something similar to this. Okay. So you have one scenario, then you have second scenario here with required fields, required information.
Missing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the third one here is non-required. So required and non-required.
Fine.
Right. So this one will give you dealer user will have 3, and then you have another 3, right? And Dilip, what you were talking about total 8, right? So
Yeah.
what am I missing here?
So add another one, right? So left of no data, right? So that's a negative test case.
Right.
Where I'm providing only partial required information.
So required and non-required here. So I have lump sum together.
that's all the information, right?
Right. That is all. Yep.
Right. Then there is a set where I provide all the required only information, which is your second one.
Right. Okay.
And the last one is I'm providing, let's say if I needed 4 pieces of required information, I provide only 3. So it's partially required information.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yep. Got it.
So
What do you mean by non-required then? That's the same as partial info.
no. So think about it, right? So there is a mandatory information, right? And then there is a non-mandatory information. So when you look into the user table, right, there are certain information, there is a column called required, where if it's Y, that means it's required information. If it
Let
is
me pull
not
that
Y,
up here while you're talking.
then that means it's nice to have it, but it's a optional information, right? So if you go, there you go, Harshal. I think it's there. Let's go to the users. Okay.
Yep. There you go.
There you go. Okay. So take a look at it here, right? So for a users, I don't have to provide a work phone or cell phone number. Those are non-required information. Okay. Where it says email address and dealership ID and area manager information and a regional manager information, all those are required information. Right. So I can potentially create it. So think about it. When you go to fill out certain form, right? There are certain pieces of data that you must provide in order to complete that form. So that's called the required pieces of information. And then you may have certain non-required information, which is optional information. So yeah, so those two, the two on the left side that Herschel has drawn it, are what is I called it as a negative case cases. That means I should not be able to create dealer user in those two conditions. And the two on the right hand sides are positive. That means I should be able to successfully create a dealer user in those two conditions. So, Shilu, do you still have questions?
No, I got it. And partial information doesn't matter, required or not required. Partial.
Yeah, it's all required, right? So partial required information I'm providing it.
Very
So
good.
I provided just only the name, but I don't provide a dealership ID. Then you should not be able to create a dealer user without having an associated dealership ID.
Okay. So these are just the negative scenarios. I mean, so
Okay. And then you will have similar tree for RFREP user also.
Yep.
So that's why I was saying that it's total of 8 use cases that's going to come from here.
okay.
It's good.
Does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I think you guys were on the right track. It's just that a little bit more detail were missing from your test cases, like how you plan to test it. So that's so we're supplying what type of information and so forth. But I think otherwise you guys were on the right track, breaking it down a little bit on that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So let's move on. So let's move on to the loan calculator one. Anybody has completed this particular one?
Yeah, I'll go ahead with loan calculator.
Okay. So let me go ahead and stop sharing.
Okay.
Explain the requirement, okay, Nikita, and see what you think how it should be tested from the scenario standpoint.
Okay. Let me share the screen. Just a minute, I'm trying to figure it out how to share.
Click on the share screen button. Do you see share screen?
Yeah, I already did, but I'm not finding the page.
So
And
go ahead and click on the entire screen. And then on the bottom right, you should have a share button. So click on that.
Yeah, I did it, but in my laptop, I'm finding the page where I draw the tree.
Oh, no, but we are not able to see anything at all.
Okay.
so you probably didn't click on the share. So you selected the screen, but you need to click on the share.
Okay. Just just a minute, okay?
Sure.
Share the screen.
Huh?
Let me share the screen.
Somebody presenting?
Yeah,
I
I'm
think she's still trying to figure it out, the screen share issue.
Yeah, the Zoom is hanging still. Okay.
Nikita, if
I
you're
got-
running
I got
into, yep.
Share screen.
Okay.
There you go. Yep, we can see it, Nikita.
yeah, okay. I'll check and I'll share.
Sure. You might have to zoom in afterwards. Okay.
Yeah, can you able to see this?
We can see it, but we cannot read it. So can you zoom in on your screen?
Now?
Now I think it's good. So you can,
Yes, scroll down so we can see at the top what are you trying to do it. So your loan calculate, hang on. So how many test cases? So as Herschel mentioned, let's talk through the requirement and then talk through, looks like you have 2 different test cases.
Yeah, so like it's 2.6.4, the requirement is need ability to calculate loan payment based on predefined calculation and period 60 months time period.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did it here in the loan calculator, loan period and predefined calculation, and they like to calculate your loan, they need 60 months time period to calculate the loan, but I didn't get the point, the predefined calculation. So can you please explain it for me?
So before that, what is your understanding? Walk me through the scenario of if I'm a user and this, what does your understanding of this requirement, how it will be impacting me as a user?
So if user wants approve the loan,
Okay, remember, like this is the loan calculation. It's not even approval scenario yet. So if you go back, look into the context diagram, right?
yeah,
There are like it's 5 or 6 different interaction between the users and the system. And one of them was calculate loan payment, right?
right.
So that is what the scenario is, right? So I have not even like applied for anything. I'm just trying to like it's calculate the loan. What will be my monthly installment? And so having understanding of that requirement, you explain me what your concerns are.
So I just I didn't get it, the what is the predefined calculation. So how to
Okay.
in calculate how it will work, predefined calculation.
Okay, so Anybody else in the class are able to answer her questions?
So what I did is I had a dealer at the very top and I had two branches coming out, one that says no data, nothing is given, trying to create it. And second one is they can calculate the loan payment.
So
Okay.
Sheila, let's step back, right? I think in your view, right, I understand the two different test cases that you kind of just illustrated, but Nikita is trying to like struggle with the question around the predefined calculation. So in her mind, she is still struggling to put the importance of what does a predefined calculation mean in that requirement. So what is your understanding, Sheila?
My understanding is, let's say if I'm the customer wanted to get my car fixed and I am unable to pay, I will ask the dealer that, let's see how much the payment will come out to. And they will calculate my monthly payment for 60 months and go from there. Say, let's say if it's $1,000 breaking that down, including the interest, how much that payment will come out to.
Okay. So do you feel you have every information needed to calculate that payment?
Your voice got broken off. Did you ask me?
Yeah. So do you feel that you have all the information needed to calculate that monthly payment? So if I tell you, hey, I want $1,000 loan, do you have enough information to calculate how much will be my monthly payment?
No, except the time frame, 60 months.
So what are you going to test in this scenario? So let's say if you put it like $1,000 as that, and system returns you information saying that, hey, your monthly installment is $100 a month. How are you going to validate that? Is the system calculating right, or system is giving you wrong calculation?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So anybody else in the class who can answer the question?
So then I'm sure the dealer have something, because how else are they going to calculate and tell somebody that this will be the amount even before they applied for loan?
Well, but you are building the system, you're testing the system. How would dealer know what it is?
Is that like predefined calculations made just in a kind of an estimate?
When you say estimate, remember, like I'm not giving you estimate, right? I'm telling you, if I take this much loan, this will be my monthly installment. So I'm not giving an estimate, I'm giving you the payment that you will be responsible to pay on a monthly basis.
I was looking on the website which you guys gave me, and I was just going through, and on that website it was like 30-month time period. So I think we need to change the time period every time differently according to the situations.
So I think Tirth, you are assuming the system is correct. Remember, you don't have a system. I think we gave you access just to look at it so that you guys can understand a little bit further the requirements.
So let me take a step back. Let me now ask you guys a question. If I have to calculate somebody's loan payment, what are the minimum pieces of information I need? Definitely I need the principal amount, right? What else I needed?
Interest rate.
You need an interest rate. What else?
Tax on it.
So if I give you the amount and I give you interest rate, can you tell me how much it's going to cost on a monthly basis? So if I say, hey, I want a loan, a 2-year loan versus 5-year loan, if you just asking me only interest rate, and the principal amount, will my payment, a monthly payment will be same for a 2-year loan versus 5-year loan?
Definitely not.
No.
So then what else I needed? If they're not same, then there is third pieces of data that I need.
So here you have 60 months time period, right? So you're missing the time period along with the interest rate and monthly payment.
Right.
Is that not correct?
Right. So what Harshal is pointing out, in order to calculate effectively what will be a monthly payment for a given loan amount, at a minimum, you need loan amount, interest rate, and the duration. In this requirement, they're saying duration is always going to be fixed. It's always going to be 60 months. So what pieces of information you're missing?
Interest rate and loan amount.
Yeah, so you're missing interest rate, right? So nobody asked that question. You did the 3C and a T. And the reason I keep harping back in this one is I want you guys to get into a mindset where when you think about it, you put yourself into that situation that if somebody comes to me asking that, hey, I need $1,000 loan for 60 months, what should be my monthly payment? What information I needed? Do I have all that information in order to perform that calculation? In this case, right, as all of you pointed out, you don't have an interest rate information.
Or you don't have predefined calculation.
Precisely. So that's where the second thing comes is that Harshal has identified in the requirements that you're going to use a predefined calculation method to calculate the loan amount. So do you guys know what that predefined calculation method is?
No.
Okay, if you don't know, how can you validate the answer, whatever the system gives, is right or wrong? You can't, right? So the first question you should ask back to your users or business owners, in this case to Harshal, is Harshal, can you tell me what is predefined calculation here is used?
So you guys are asking me or Dilip is asking me?
I had the same question. Yes. What is
Okay.
predefined calculation here?
Sure. So the monthly payment is 3% of the loan amount. Okay, that's the calculation the system will utilize to calculate the monthly payment. So it's a 3% of the loan amount.
Now,
So that's a
given
simplified calculation for 60-month time frame. Okay, so that's already decided. That's the calculation, predefined calculation.
okay.
But Harshal, what I wanted to ask you is, you are
Sure.
just one lender. How do I know I will approach more lenders? Who is going to give me the loan with that perfect amount?
So all predefined calculation will apply to all the lenders.
Okay.
No, irrespective of what lender is in the area that you can go get the money, it will be for all the lenders, same calculation, it will apply. Now, in the ideal financial situation, right, you might have a different, when you set up a lender, you also set up what is the monthly payment or what's the predefined formula they'll be utilizing, ideally. But here we are not talking about that. Here, all we are saying is it will be same calculation no matter what lender you will choose in the system.
Yeah, so what that turns into the business meaning is that no matter which lender approves your loan, you will be paying same interest rate to everybody for your loan.
Right.
And you have no choice but to take the loan for 60-month period. You can't pick that, hey, I want to do it only 2-year loan. You have to use 5-year loans. Okay. Now, given that information, do you feel you have all what's needed in order to test this requirement? And if so, let's talk about what are the possible scenarios. So Nikita, what you kind of put it, right? The predefined and 60-month, I don't see that as a two different thing, right? Those are the two parts of the requirement. Those are not two different scenarios that you need to test it.
Okay.
Because for every loan, there will always be same predefined calculation and same 60-month.
Okay.
And you will use the calculation for your scenarios. So I don't see the scenarios here. What for the scenario perspective. Now, Silu, you were saying something different. Can you elaborate a little bit further on that? What scenarios you have? Now
Uh,
we can talk about that.
Yeah, so I don't have much on this case. All I did is I have started with a dealer, two branches coming out. One says no data. If there is nothing filled and they try to calculate it, it's a
Sure.
negative case. And the second one is they can calculate a loan payment, and that's it. I don't have
Okay.
much.
So you have no data, and then you have something they will input, and you are expecting some output, some
Yes,
monthly amount. That's what
yes,
you are saying. Okay.
yes.
Okay, so you're on the
Anybody?
right
Yeah,
track,
go ahead.
right? So those are two different possibilities, right? Is there any additional possibilities?
I guess anybody has anything different, any additional things.
Okay. Let me ask all of you guys a question. So we definitely talked about the no data situation, right? Where I don't put anything into the field for principal amount and try to click the calculate, right? So it should fail, right? Because there's nothing for me to calculate. Agree?
Yes,
Okay. And the second scenario you just said is that I will put something into that field and click calculate, right?
yes.
So now, what all I can put into that field then?
As we discussed in the last case, I think partial information can be one case, full information.
Hang on. So tell me, give me an example of partial information for loan amount.
Where just principal amount is given and no.
Well, I'm already using predefined calculation and already
Yes,
60-month
no,
is fixed. So what will be the partial for me?
putting no
Because all I'm
principal
asking
amount.
you is just to enter me the principal amount,
So missing the principal amount.
which we said no data, right?
Yes.
What else I can put into that principal amount field?
So instead of putting any number, we can try to put any text and see what happens.
There
Okay.
you go. That's one possible scenario, right? One is you pointed out, I will put the number. Another possibility is I will put a text. Okay. So now instead of just two cases where no data and some data, I can now that no data, a numerical data, and a text data. What else? Is there any other possibilities? What are the different types of numbers?
Odd numbers and even numbers.
That's one possibility. Is there any other possibility?
Putting $sign and asterisk.
but that's text, right? Can I put a positive number and a negative number?
Do decimals work?
Decimal is still positive, right?
Yeah.
Right.
What if I put $100 versus if I put minus $100? Is it the same or it's two different things?
Two different
They're
things.
two different things.
Do I have to test for the scenario? What will happen in one and what should happen in the other? So if I put $100, right, it's a positive thing. I should be able to calculate something. What if I put negative $100? What should system do?
Should I get negative monthly payment?
Is lender going to pay you for taking the loan?
No.
So Herschel, the logical data entities that we had, text and then number and Boolean, don't they have that for even loan boxes where we can just specify what numbers are there so we don't have to go for this many cases?
That is correct, but you still need to validate it, right? Even if they put it down in the requirement, how would you validate that? Even if it says it's some numeric amount, then you need to test for, make sure you test for decimal amount. Does the system allow it? Maybe sometimes they don't. You test for the whole number and make sure it gives you the valid output. So that's something, those are some of the scenarios you have to test it, even though it's in the requirement, because you are validating the requirement, right? What's your role is to validate the requirement in the software, make sure the software works accordingly. So if you look at here, loan amount, let me flip here. For the loan.
Actually, you're not sharing. If you're planning to share something.
Oh, sorry, and you guys are not. There you go. So can you guys see it now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So you still need to make sure system works according to the requirement. And these are some of the scenarios that I think we already talked about, right? Numeric, the invalid loan amount. You have the alphabets, you can put some negative amount and see if the system allows you to generate the loan monthly payment. But for the valid loan amount, you could test for the decimal as well as integer amount or whole number to see if you get the valid results back or not. Now I was going to check here for the amount to see if we have anything in here that talks about the what type of amount it would be and so forth. But amount can be in general sense, right? Amount is amount. It does have decimal numbers and so forth. So you should be expecting to test accordingly. Okay, does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So let me ask a question. Do you guys see a trend here of how you're breaking down the requirements, right? So take a look at it, what Herschel had it on slide 2, and then he did on slide 3, right? You have to consider what are the scenarios in which I'll be able to successfully do the task that requirement is calling about. Those are positive scenarios. And what are the cases where I will be able to fail to perform that task? That's negative scenarios, right? So you need to complete both of that in order to prove it that the system will work the way that you're expecting it to work. Right? And as long as you are giving an option to click something without entering in any data, then you will have a special condition called no data. That means what should happen when user does not enter any data for this particular requirement or for this particular operation.
So everybody good with that? Hopefully, you guys are getting the idea here.
Yes. So then
I
there
think some of you are getting it. I mean, based on what we heard, I think you guys are getting it. Just that you are trying to formalize your thoughts and trying to put it on piece of paper. It's always difficult. Okay. But I think once you create a little bit more practice, once you have a little bit more practice, then you guys should be all right. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let me pull up here. So we will talk about the 263, ability to search lender by lender name. Okay.
Now, who wants to share their thoughts? And obviously, like it's right, you can share it what you have it, and then you can talk also about if there is anything that you would change it based on discussion we have done in over the last 60 minutes or so.
Dilip, I'll be back in a minute. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who wants to talk about that particular requirement? Remember,
So,
this is an opportunity. So go
so,
ahead.
So the requirement is ability to search the lender by lender name.
Right.
So I have started it with our flown wrap. And I just have one branch by saying search the lender by name, and coming out another two branches that says yes and no.
So would you change anything based on the discussion we had so far?
Yes, I would change the whole thing.
What would you change to? Let's talk.
So I will say, again, I'll keep our front wrap the same. One branch will be if nothing is there and they try to search it. That's one. The second one will be they will try to search by name. And again, I will also do alphabetical as one branch, numerical as another one.
Hang on. So when you say numerical versus alphabet, what is a lender name?
Will be alphabet only.
Is it a number in the system?
No.
Right. It's a text, right?
Yes, but I thought despite we are testing it.
But so think of this way, right? If it's a text, can I store a number as a text? So if I put a text as 15, is that a valid text? Yes, no?
No.
Why not? Now, if I say the other word, right, is AB a number? I will definitely be able to say, no, it's not. Because by definition, number is what? 0 through 9, right? A digit.
Yes.
What is a text? Is it only A through Z? Or it's all characters, A through Z, 0 through 9, $sign, plus sign, star, ampersand?
All characters.
All characters, right? So if it's all characters, then can I technically say 15 is also a text? So you were saying certain things, like it's when I stop you for the number one. You were also talking about something as partial. Can you shed light on that one?
Yes, so not putting the whole name, just writing the first 3 or 4 letters of the company.
Okay. What about first name and last name?
Will it be first name, last name? I thought it will be name of the company.
Okay. I'm asking you a question.
No, I don't think so. First name, last name.
Right. So you were right on mark, right, Sheila? You just said, hey, if it to be user will have a first name, last name. Here we are talking the name of a company, which will always be a company name. For example, Fifth Third, Huntington, Chase, those are the lenders, right? So in this case scenario, if I have to rephrase Sheila, what you so far say, that you will have a no data scenario, you will have a scenario where I give the entire name of the lender, and then you will have a scenario where you're giving partial name of the lender.
Yes.
Is my understanding right? Okay. So those are the three. Anybody else has thought that, are we missing anything else here? Or if I do this 3 test cases, I can conclusively say that, hey, my requirement is completed. Now, who all can search on a lender?
RFRAP.
Is that the only person who can search on it?
Site admin.
Anybody else?
Area manager.
Regional manager.
Where would I find that information? Who all can do search on a lender? If I have to find that information, where would I find it?
Manage lender?
No. Do you remember there was a table in the requirements document?
Is that the 2.6 individual functional usability requirement document?
That, as well as if you look into the
I think it's 2.5 where it says system access and functional of individual and organization.
precisely. Also, you have something up in the table. I'm trying to recall it off the top of head, but you had one of the business process requirement where you had that table. Right. So that's where that's where you will find it. Now, in order to test it, right? So there are 2 different angles that you need to think about it, right? Is who are the users who can perform this functionality, and can they all do that? And second is, if they have access to the search lender functionality, then what are the scenarios that you need to test it, right? So this requirement itself just focuses on, if I have access to search lender functionality, what are the scenarios I need to test it, right? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay. So sometimes you also have to look into the context of requirement to determine, do I need to expand any test cases or not? In this scenario, you don't, because there is a specific things called out, and then its focus is only on the functionality of how the searching is going to perform for lender. So those 3 requirements collectively gives you the information that you needed to validate that requirement.
Is this all we have based on what you guys discussed? Exact match, partial match, no data, or you guys had anything else?
Yes, that's it.
That's it, right? Okay. All right. So everybody good? We can move on. Okay. So 2.1, I believe we already discussed last time. So I'm not sure if you want to spend time on this one.
I think, Harshal, we did all three, right? 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3.
Yes, we did all three.
Did you guys
Yes.
have any question? Did you update it based on the discussion we had it on Sunday?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so as we are assuming that you guys have a good understanding of how you plan to, or what would be the scenarios that you will be testing for.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's go to the second part of the requirement, homework, right?
Yep.
Now, the second part was to write at least 4 test cases based on the requirements that we talked on last Sunday. So who can share the test case that they wrote it, right? And when you walk through the test case, tell us the requirement and the scenario that the test case is testing.
I can share mine.
Okay, so let me stop sharing here.
So the first test case which I have created is for requirement dealer can view and search their application. So here the precondition is at least 2 valid credit application exist in the system and each submitted by different dealers.
Okay, Niti, can I ask you one question here?
Yes.
So what exactly you are testing? What scenario you are testing here?
Dealer can view and search their application.
So remember that requirement we talked about has multiple test cases.
Yes.
Which one of the test cases you're testing?
But it has at least 2 valid credit application exist and it is submitted by different dealers.
Okay.
So in this case, what you're trying to say it is, if I'm a dealer, I can view and search only my applications? Because
Yes.
this title is missing the keyword only, right?
Oh,
because
yes.
if you don't put that, that requirement is completely different than the one with the word only.
Right.
Can you explain this, the precondition part?
So here I'm assuming that the R-Phone system has at least 2 credit application and each credit application is submitted by different dealers. Like it has to be like 2 valid credit applications submitted by 2 different dealers instead of like only 1 dealer or 2 no dealers.
Okay. So I understand the precondition. Help me understand a little bit of your test summary where you say it's dealer can successfully view and sort the application submitted by them. Give me a little bit more insight because you said there's 2 applications in the system and it's submitted by 2 different dealers. So what is the summary? What is the condition that I'm looking here?
So when I have tested the, like, can I explain the test steps first?
Sure.
So I went to the actual application and followed certain steps to validate it. So first, I logged in as German Toyota, and the expected result should be successful login. And the next step I would follow was click on the loan status button, which was there on the application itself. So after clicking on the loan status button, system should navigate to credit applications. And then I tried to click on one credit application ID, and the expected result was system should open the credit application. I would see that I would check the repair facility name on section A of application, and it was there. Like its repair facility name was German Toyota. So according to me, the test was successful, and dealer can successfully view and search the application submitted by them.
Okay, can you share me what test data you have?
Yes, so this.
Okay, so couple of questions.
Mm-hmm.
If you give this test case exactly to somebody else in the class,
Mm-hmm.
can they run the test case and then definitely say answer yes or no if it passed or failed?
Just by looking at it, no. But if you go to the application, then maybe you can relate.
So let's say there is an application,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to turn around to everybody in the class, right? So if you can scroll up to the step-by-step instructions. Okay, so if Niti gives all of you this particular 4 steps and says, go ahead and test the system. Do you feel you have enough information to run the test case and then clearly say, yes, it fulfilled what the condition and the requirement said up?
No.
View only their credit applications.
No, because it's missing the URL.
Well, there is a URL she has provided in the test data.
So do I need to log in as different user, and that information should be?
No,
okay.
No. Hang on, Niti, right? Okay. There is a reason why I'm asking this question.
Okay.
Okay. Let me turn to everybody else in the class. Do you feel that you have enough information with this 4 test steps to test the condition that you said the dealer can view only their application? And if the answer is no, I would like you guys to elaborate what additional information you would like it to see here that you feel are missing for you to test it. You guys know the answer, right? It's just that you need to build a confidence to say it. Okay. So Niti, let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
If you scroll up a little bit where you said that, hey, my precondition is that there must be at least 2 valid credit applications exist in the system.
Yes.
It's submitted by different dealers. Well, you put the precondition of 2 applications, and sounds like you put the precondition also to have 2 different dealers submitted that.
Mm-hmm.
How did you use that precondition into your steps? Because all I saw it only 1 dealer,
right,
and 1 application. So why would I need to satisfy the precondition that you say that when I'm not even using second dealer and second app?
So I was confused whether I should include the information about the second dealer in this test case itself, or should I create another test case to validate it?
So that goes back to it, which test cases or which leaf condition you are writing the test case.
So if I'm trying to validate that 2 different dealers can see only their credit applications, so should I need to create another
No, because remember, If
Okay.
you're saying that you're trying to validate in this particular test case that the two dealers can view only their respective credit application, then you need to have all those steps in this test case.
Okay, yeah. Then, yeah, it's incomplete.
Okay. The other question I have it is, you put into the step number 3, that click on credit application with the ID 21241. How do I know that that credit application exists in the system?
So as I told you, like I went to the real application and then put this application.
Think about it, right? You went to the real application because we gave you the application. What if this scenario was, I'm just building a new application? Then you don't have the application. Where are you getting the data? What data are you getting it? And how can you guarantee that every time somebody logs into that system, that particular credit application is always there and it's always assigned to German Toyota?
I would create a test credit application and then see.
What are the steps for that?
Um,
So where I'm kind of pointing it is, you started the requirement or the test scenario with one thing into mind, and your test steps are not matching what you went out to test it.
right.
I think Nitin, you are on the right track here. Okay, I think you have the idea. It's just that you just went different route on the step 3. I mean, if I have to write it right, all the steps, I would log in as make sure the German Toyota exists, right? Those two dealers, whatever you picked out, they exist in the system, and whatever the credit application you need to create, either you can create it or make sure you put it in the precondition, the specific application that you are going to create, or it's assigned to them or created by them, right?
Okay.
So specific IDs, you can put it there, and that would be part of your test data.
Right.
If they don't exist, you add the step instead of step 3. You go and put a step. Hey, go and create a credit application for German Toyota, and also for whatever other dealer that you pick out for both. In step
Okay.
3 can include both of that. Or you can put elaborate steps. Hey, this is how I'm going to create the credit application. So you can go step by step, include all the steps as well.
Right.
And then finally you log in as both dealers and see if you are able to see only your application, because you need to prove that other dealer cannot see it.
Right.
Right. So I think you are on the right track here. It's just that you need to describe, put more details.
So I've created another test case for this to validate. I've logged in as auto body shop, and then
Actually they both needs to be in the same test case,
right,
because
yeah, I'm
otherwise,
confused. Yes.
yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
a half test case. What you have done is you split up the steps, and that's not gonna work for this scenario here.
Yes,
Yeah.
got
Right.
it.
So
So
you need to have all the steps in the single test case here.
Right.
yeah. So in this scenario, right, Niti, and I want everybody to think it this way, right? You often try to like write step-by-step detailed things. What you need to get into is first think about it, what will be the flow of the steps that you want to do it, right? So if you can unshare it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go ahead and with this one, I'll share my screen. Give me a second. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
the requirement is dealer can view only their application, right? So this is the scenario that you're trying to do it. Okay. So what you need it, right? So what is the preconditions you need it, right? So we talked about, I need 2 dealers or at least 2 dealers, right? And I need 2 credit application. And I need each dealer associated with one credit application. Right? So this is the minimum thing that I needed in order to do that. Okay. And then logically, right? The steps, right? What do I need it? First, I need to log in as dealer one, right? Now look at what my precondition is, right? So let's say I'll just say D1 and D2 are the two dealers. C1 and C2 are my two credit application. I'm saying is that D1 is associated with C1 and D2 is associated with C2. Are you guys with me so far?
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and I'm going to log in as dealer one. Okay. And then I'm going to view the applications. Okay. And what should I see it? I can see only C1, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Then I log out as D1, log in as D2. I view my applications. I should use the consistent word, view the applications. Right. Here I can see only C2. Okay. So think about it. These are the 6 logical steps that I needed. Now, as Harshal stated, if I don't use this precondition, right? So if I don't use this precondition, then I have to put the steps to create C1, right? I create C1, okay? And then I log out D1, log in as D2, right? Create C2, okay? Then the log out. Then I again log in as D1, validate that I can see only C1, log out, log in as D2, validate that I can see only C2, and then log out. Okay. So do you see it how depending on the precondition I put it, I have to adjust my steps.
Right.
Now you can take it and says, what does it mean by login as dealer D1? Then you can put the detail around it and says, hey, when I'm doing that, what should be my expected results? Okay. So this is what we call out a lot of times is identify the logical sequence of the steps that you need to do it in order to write this test case. So all this does it allows you to kind of formulate your thought process that, hey, now that I have this particular leaf in the tree that I'm going to try to write a test case, well, what are the scenarios? What are the conditions I have to do, set it up, and how I'm going to perform step-by-step validation for that particular situation. It's good. Question? Neeti, does it help now to see it?
Yes. It's
Yes.
Why you were doing two different one and why those two individually will not satisfy. You have
right.
to put both
I
of them
got it.
together to validate both these conditions.
Yes.
Now, there may be a scenario, right, that you would say, hey, what if I have more than one credit application? Can I see all of them? That's another test case. So if you're
Yes.
writing that case, that will be a separate one than this one.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Obviously, it has different scenarios. So I was confused, like how many test cases I should create.
So when you go look at it, like it's how we created all this, each individual tree, leaves. For every leaf, you should have one test case.
Right.
Right. And then the moment you try to mix both of those, that's when a red flag, you have to think about it. That, hey, I'm not going to be able to test this condition or that condition because I'm mixing it. Or potentially, remember the word, like one of the statement was there, that your test case should not be too simple or too complex.
Right.
When you make it too simple, that means you're not fulfilling the entire branch or the case that you're trying to test it. And if it's too complex, that means you're trying to merge multiple into the one.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So who else has a different test case? Anybody wants to share? I know you guys wrote it. You guys, a lot of you sent me.
I can share.
Okay. Yep. Go ahead, Mega.
Let's see.
And the reason we are focusing on this one heavily is because this is very important work. I mean, for you guys. So we want to make sure you guys understand and revise your stuff.
Okay, how do you tap screen mirror?
Sure. Yeah, it's still coming up.
Can you see it?
Not yet. I think it says, okay, we can see the screen mirroring.
Okay.
Are you on iPad?
On my phone.
Yeah, okay. I think we can see it, but it's just too small to see it. Maybe you can go ahead and explain if you are able to explain.
Sure. So my test title, test case I'm doing is the requirement 2.2.
Okay.
Lender can only approve or reject credit application by changing status.
Okay.
And my precondition is that the lender user account already exists in the system with the credential provided in data section. And the test summary is that lender can successfully log into the system with the valid credentials provided in data section.
Hold on a second. I think so which scenario you are testing here, Mega? Is it approval or rejection or anything else?
I got confused. I was testing both, actually, approval and rejection, but
Okay.
I think my test steps are.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So you need to have separate scenario. Those are separate test scenarios, right? So you need to have separate test case
Okay.
for that.
This is more like for approval and not for the rejection.
So your title should say you are testing whatever. So you need to change the lender can only approve credit
Approve.
applications by
Mhm.
changing status.
Yes.
Yep. And then second scenario, you can put lender can reject credit application by changing status. So that should
Right.
be.
Right.
Yep. Okay. Can you go through the steps? See what you
Sure.
have?
For the first step, I have as a enter application URL
Sure.
specified in the data and click go to the site. And my expected result is that the application homepage displays in the browser.
Okay.
The second test step was to enter the user ID and password that was provided in the test data.
Mhm.
And click on the login button. The expected result was the user can successfully log into the lender homepage.
Okay.
And the third step was to click on the application ID 21217 for Nishant Kapadia and change the status. And the expected result was that Nishant Kapadia's report opens and lender is able to change the status to
Yeah.
approve, but it also changed the status to decline pending or funded. So I wasn't sure because technically at this time the test case failed because
Right.
it was able to do 4 things.
Okay. So you expect a result should say they can change the status to approve. Basically, that's what your expected result is supposed to be,
Okay.
right?
Right.
Trying to see here and change the status to approve. I think that's what you are saying, right? In the third
Right.
steps. Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. So
So,
this test scenario is for approval, right?
For approval, yes.
Okay.
so what is your precondition? Is the credit application has to be in certain status, or it could be in any status. So for example, what if that credit application is in the rejected status?
Not sure.
So do you feel that your precondition that lender user exists in the system is sufficient, or do you have to say this credit application also exists and it's assigned to this lender and it is in certain specific status?
Okay.
Because think about repeatability of the aspect. Do I have clarity in the precondition that allows me to make sure that my test case is repeatable and predictable?
I see what you're saying.
So make sure you reflect. I think you're in the right track, right?
Okay.
The two, I think, is that the adjustment you need to do it is need to tighten up the precondition to make sure your
Okay.
test case can be repeatable and predictable. And second, as Harshal said, you can't try to do 4 things into it.
Okay.
You're either just approving the credit application, then just make sure that's the only status. And that's the only activity that you're focusing on.
Okay.
Now, if you don't put the 21217 credit application right in the precondition, kind of like what we discussed earlier for Niti's test case, you can actually put the steps to go and create the credit application by logging in as a dealer and assigning to maybe lender 1, and then log in as a lender 1 and try to change the status. Okay, so you can have
Okay.
probably 5 different steps. I mean, additional steps, which is okay. You could have 8 steps. You create a credit application, assign to the lender, then log in as a lender, and then try to change the status as well.
Okay.
And I think that's what it will be applicable here because you don't have application ID or you did not put that in the precondition. So you have to have the steps, otherwise your test case is not complete.
Okay.
Okay. So as Dilip
Makes
said, you
sense.
can put it in the precondition, otherwise list out all the steps.
Okay.
Okay. And the actual results, right? I'm just curious. You wrote down the actual results, but that's you have to log that when you actually execute the test case, when you actually get access to the system. So you don't put it in the actual test case here in the plan.
Oh, okay.
The actual result, when you actually run the test case,
I
following your
did.
own steps.
Yes, I went
Okay.
into the website and did it.
Okay. All right. That's the reason you captured it here. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. Yeah. Okay.
So Harshal, you will also write the same steps.
See, everybody will write it differently. Okay. But as long as your preconditions are clear, or you put all the steps in the test steps, and then you give it to somebody, right? As we discussed earlier, and they are able to execute it. That means your steps are clear, and it's repeatable as well. So if I have to write it, it would be similar, but I would add all the steps for creating the credit application uh, and assigning to a lender in this test case right here. Because I don't know 21217 application will exist or not when I run the test case next time, right? So that's why I want to put all the steps right there for creating the application itself in the test case. Yeah, otherwise your precondition gets too bigger, and then you have to do a lot of prep work before you can execute the test case. Does it make sense, Silu?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I think you can stop sharing Mega, but make sure you revise it a little bit. Okay. As we
Okay.
discussed.
Okay.
All right. Who else has it? Go ahead and share it. We'll discuss, and you guys need to tweak it, or you guys might be perfect. Who knows? Narayan, Kingsley, Sam. Anybody wrote anything?
I can share mine.
Okay. Go ahead, share it, Narayan. Did you share it, Narayan?
Yeah, it's still processing
Okay,
time.
sure. Did you click on share button? Because otherwise we would see something here if you said something. So click on the share screen, then pick the screen that is highlighted, and then click on the share button on the lower right corner.
Says open system preferences to allow it.
Okay. So,
I'm doing on a
all right,
Mac.
let me see. Oh, you are on the Mac. Okay.
Yeah.
So Narayan, I got your test cases here. Which one you want me to open?
Oh,
Or you
okay.
want me to open anything? I can share it. Hang on. Let me go and share my screen here so that you can see. Okay. So which one you need us to go through?
1.1 says.
1.1. Okay. All right. So hopefully everybody can see it.
Yeah, so my test case is about need ability to calculate loan payment based on predefined calculation. So my precondition is the loan calculation, the time period, that is like a 60 month, I would believe, is already in the system.
So we gave you the formula, right, Narayan?
Yeah, but
0.03 or 3% of the loan amount. So that's the formula you are given.
okay,
So that
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 should be in my
yeah.
precondition, right?
Um, that is not something is a precondition because it is expected that system will behave that way.
Okay,
So here I'm precondition wise. I mean, since you are not, I mean, whatever dealer you are logging in, maybe you want to put that in the precondition that dealer login exists in the system, something like that.
okay,
But let's go through that and we'll come back. Okay.
all right.
All right. Go ahead, Narayan.
All right, so my test steps are first we need to validate the loan payment calculator URL, which is specified in the data section, and we have to click OK. And the expected result will be the loan payment homepage is displayed. The second step will be to validate the lender ID and password, which is provided.
Okay.
And
Wait. So who is doing the work here? You are saying the lender will calculate the loan payment.
that's the job of lender, right? The lender is the person who um, approve or calculate the payment.
Is it a lender's job?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, dealer. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So make sure you correct your test case. Okay.
Yes.
Also, can you tell me what do you mean by validate? So
This is just terminology I used.
so that's where I want to like, let's go back, right? So when you look into the test steps,
Okay.
those should be actions.
Okay.
Those should not be a statement, right? So when you say it's a validate loan payment, is there a validate button anywhere that you're clicking?
No.
So what action you would like to do it? That's what you need to specify there.
Okay.
Because validate is kind of very ambiguous word.
All right.
So you have to actually say that on the screen you are inputting some loan amount and calculating the loan payment, right?
Okay. Okay.
And that one should get you the right results. So that should include the steps, basically action, as Dilip said. You are inputting something and clicking on or calculating something. That's your action, user action.
Okay.
And system is displaying some number which is supposed to be a valid number at that point.
Yes.
Okay. So I think you need to revise your test case according to what we discuss here. Okay. What scenario you are following? Are you saying loan calculator with a valid loan amount and and that is a decimal amount, or you are using the loan calculator scenario with invalid loan amount and you are trying to input the alphabets?
Okay.
So that's this.
Right.
So you have at least 4 scenarios as part of the loan calculation. So you have to put all those details around it. What exactly you are trying to input and what the expected outcome you are trying to validate.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
So to take a look at that and revise it. I think because we did not discuss this scenario earlier, so you may not have the right idea. But hopefully now it's clear what you should be putting in the test case.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Sounds good. Anybody has a question? Or anybody wrote something different?
No, thank you.
All right. Okay. So I think we got time for one more here. So anybody else wants to share it? Anybody has any question, I guess, on the test case? You guys need to have at least 5 or 6, okay, before Sunday. So we'll work through
Saturday.
that.
Herschel, before
Yeah,
Saturday,
yeah, before
before they
Saturday
come in.
actually 4. Yeah, make sure you have at least 4 on before Saturday. So uh, we are not dictating what you guys are picking for the scenarios, but make sure you create 4 different scenarios. And even if it's a logical scenarios, which is okay, we want to see it your thought process that you are, and we'll review that on Saturday as well.
And when we modify, can we just write how Dilip wrote it as a login and create something and log out?
Yeah, that's a logical, right? So you need to have more details, but if you feel comfortable writing logically, do that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, because that's easier because some
Well,
hard to think.
yes, let me step back though, right? I'm saying is for articulating where your thought process is, that logical may be sufficient. However, before you're ready to test it, you need to convert that logical into step-by-step detail with every specific data.
Right.
Okay. So I don't want you to be under impression that, hey, I showed the logical and that is sufficient for you to continue to do the testing. That logical is sufficient to make sure that you are able to articulate where your thought process is going and whether you are right on that thought process or not.
Yeah, and while you are in the real world, right? So you create the logical, then you wait for a little bit, add the details as the detail comes to know you. I mean, as you get to know more details. Okay, so that's how, I mean, typically you revise the test case probably maybe a few times before you actually start testing or executing it on the live system. So it's a repetitive process, but it needs to be correct logically. Okay, I mean that's for sure. Without that, I mean, I don't know what you're gonna validate, and or if the test case is not correct logically, then it will not work. So
Think about it like it's going back to what Herschel indicated on Sunday. Doing the tree and writing the test case will be 70 to 80% of your day-to-day job. So what I would like it to see it is you taking as much practice as you can between now and Saturday to write the test cases so we can understand where your thought process are. If you are having difficulty with certain concepts, then let's talk through it. Right. So now you had 2 different sessions where we talked through it, how to build the tree. And then we started having a discussion of how to write the actual test case from the tree. Take a practice. Even if you are not completely right, which we don't anticipate you to be right on the first time go around. At least we understand where you are doing good and where you're still having some confusion. So unless you write it and share with us, you're going to miss that opportunity.
Okay. All right, so the plan for Saturday is we'll continue working on additional test cases, and we'll review first thing in the morning, see if you guys wrote anything additional. Okay.
Yeah, Herschel, what I would like it is before Saturday though, for everybody in the class. They were supposed to write 4 test cases today.
Right. They have to finish it up. Yep.
Where I would like it is take today's learning and reflect it and update your 4 test cases so that everybody should be ready to talk about the 4 test cases on Saturday morning. Is that fair?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's start Saturday morning then with reviewing your test cases.
Yep. Yeah, because on Sunday we will move on to the different topic. So we want to make sure you get the opportunity on Saturday as well to work through and create few more on Saturday as well. So. All right, any other question?
All the cases, the 3 test case that we discussed, what there was no dependency on it.
So did you have, so the dependency are typically more on external systems? All the 3 test cases that we talked about were centered within the functionality in the system itself, right? They are not interacting with the email systems or anything else. Therefore, you didn't have any external dependencies there.
Now, if somebody has the email system or email notification test case, then it should have the dependency with the email system over there.
So the one of the test case I did was system notify via email to the dealer for approval by lender.
Okay. Yeah, so that one should include the dependency with the email system.
Okay.
In the dependency section.
Okay.
That email system is up and running and is accessible. Yep. So Silu, we will review our test case as well on Saturday. But I think you guys got the idea of the logical steps, adding a little bit more details, and hopefully you guys are clear about what goes in the precondition versus what goes in the steps. And vice versa. I mean, if you don't put anything in the precondition, make sure you include everything in the steps. So I think we will regroup on Saturday morning and we'll review a few more and we'll work through that on Saturday, revising it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Okay,
Thank
then if nobody else has any question, then we'll call it a day for today.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.